Today we have issue 91 of Betty from November of 2000. I'm going to say right off the bat here that I really like this issue. It's got some nice stories in it and some, you'll see letter section is very interesting. Starts off with a cute little Dan DeCarlo cover here. Our main story, it's a two-parter. Betty wants to raise money for a local animal shelter. So what she ends up doing is planning a fundraiser where people are able to paint a mural on this building that's going to be demolished. Building ends up getting demolished. She ends up finding a rare coin inside the demolished building that sells for a lot of money, and the animal shelter is saved. Yay, yay, yay. Our next story, Betty is visiting a park that's about to be torn down that she used to spend a lot of time at as a kid. It's being torn down for good reason. They'd like to make it more accessible. And throughout the story, she's kind of going through some memories that she had there as a kid. It's just a nice little touching story. And her last one here, Betty has a bit of a job for the newspaper writing restaurant reviews, and she brings Archie along, and something kind of bad happens to Archie at each of the restaurants. Gets his nose snapped by a lobster, he gets sick for some blowfish, gets burned at one of the restaurants. The most interesting part of this issue to me is this section of Dear Betty. So all of the Archie comics around this time have a section where kids write in letters and the characters give them a response. This one, though, in particular, also has this what's in and what's out section. Now, I've got a stack of other comics and Archie series from this exact time period, and none of them include this. One of them has like a little horoscope thing. That sounds like really, really cool, but we get there when we get there, okay? This one, this what's in and what's out. So it goes over what the interesting trends were in November of 2000. What's in? NSYNC. Out? Spice Girls. Get the hell out of here. In? Jennifer and Brad. Out? Gwyneth and Brad. So this is like Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt. Out is Gwyneth Paltrow and Brad Pitt. In? Pokemon. Out? Beanie Babies. I would say that maybe Pokemon's been in for a while. I think this is quite a while after Pokemon Gold and Silver came out. And out, Beanie Babies had been kind of unpopular for a while. Oh well, whatever. Out, Hugh and Elizabeth. This is like Hugh Grant and Elizabeth Hurley. In, Tom and Drew. This is Tom Green and Drew Barrymore. Wow. In, Feng Shui. Out, Clutter. In, eBay, which was probably new-ish at the time. Out, E. coli. I would probably have to look into this. I'm curious if there was like an in, Real TV. Guess reality TV had been picking up this time. Out of work, actors, because you don't need to pay actors for reality TV. That was one of the reasons why TV stations loved it, is because it was so much cheaper to produce. In, Tiger Woods. Out, John Rocker. I actually had to look this one up. I had no idea who John Rocker was. And it turns out that he was a baseball player who made some very off-color comments to some magazines. And yeah, so this is somebody who was rightfully canceled about 25 years ago. Okay, so let's take a look at some letters. Kids would write in asking for advice, and they would get a response in the character of Betty. Let's look down here. Dear Betty, I like this boy and he likes me too. My friend asked him if he'd be my boyfriend, but he said, I don't know. I don't really think that's a question, but yeah, that's a tough one. That is a toughie. I'm kind of impressed with how they respond to some of these questions. Look at this next one. Dear Betty, I have two friends who talk behind my back. I don't like it. Please help. That is a very legit child problem right here. This is like, yeah, and I would have a hard time answering how to do this. So I'm impressed with the response. I suggest you talk with them and tell them if they have anything to say it to you directly. If they're good friends, they'll take your advice. And before that, there's a bit of a preamble where she goes on about why that's bad for your friends to be like that. This next one. When I was in 5th grade, I used to have a best friend who was a boy. I really liked him. When I heard he moved, I became really sad. It's been 2 years since I've last seen him. I think about him almost every day. I even had a dream that I met him again. Anyway, they follow up with advice about, like, don't be shy. You can try to get in contact with him. Here's how you might be able to do it. Some funny things from the artwork for this issue. Moose, of course, wearing his sweater with his name on it. Betty wearing the striped red and white top, that the sailor's uniform that I always see everywhere. There's a single frame where they put Betty in a nightgown. And the idea is, okay, so the building blew up and she kept a brick from it, and the idea is she's using that brick to prop open the door. And I guess they were like, okay, well, it's propping open the door because it's nighttime, but really they could have had her just wearing any normal clothing. Somebody really wanted to put her in a nightgown, I swear. As part of the story, Betty is also commissioned to do a mural, and she did this one entitled Moon Over a Mountain of Marshmallows. Look at that. Great job, Betty. Betty, fall fashions. Fall's coming up, everybody. Better get ready. Here's another one with different charms that Betty wears on her bracelets. I don't actually know if charm bracelets were a big thing at the time. Like, I know a few years later they were. I certainly wasn't the kind of person who was wearing a charm bracelet, so I'm not really sure. They must have been. I love the video game ads from this era. One from Mario Tennis here. And on the back, we've got a nice Game Boy Color ad. This one's fantastic. It's a map of the US. And that's Betty, number 91 from November of 2000. Again, I loved this issue. Really good.